Love laid bare.
Welcome back to a new season of Love Laid Bare. I'm, of course, your host, Dionne. And today we're going to be talking about our lessons learned from marriage. So I'm joined by three wonderful guests. So to my far right, I have Rachel, who is the new host of a show called Still Figuring It Out. We have Fitz. Welcome, Fitz.
Hello.
This is like kind of technically your second time on the show, but the first one didn't get aired.
The remix.
So this is the remix. And yes. And our regular guest that we have on the show, we have Kerry.
Hey, how is everyone?
Yes, everyone. I'm good. How's everyone today?
I'm well.
It's a nice sunny day in London today. I think it's probably the hottest day we've had so far, right?
I'm rolling on, waiting for tomorrow.
Yes. So yeah, let's get to it. So I think, so basically, everybody on this panel has at least been married, right?
Yes.
So the focus of the conversation that I want to have with everyone today is, you know, the lessons that we have learned. So I want to take it from the top. So what were your perceptions of marriage before you were actually in the position where you were going to get married? I'll throw it to the panel.
Who's going first?
I don't mind going.
Yep.
What were my perceptions of marriage? My perceptions of marriage were forever. It was, you were my backbone, I was yours. My perception of marriage was that it's a partnership, that we both mutually enter with an idea of growing old, having grandchildren, traveling the world, and literally building together. That was my perception of marriage.
Okay, what about from one of the gentlemen?
Yeah, I think it's similar, to be honest with you. Really, like, you're not marrying to get divorced. You're not marrying to kind of not be with that person for the rest of your life. Like, for me, it was like, this is the person I'm spending the rest of my life with. I'm focused on that.
Yeah.
This is the person I'm going to build with. So yeah, I'd say that was my perception of marriage.
Yeah, quite similar, to be fair. Yeah, devotion. Definitely forever. Never expected to get married and get divorced. Yeah.
Yeah, I think I'd agree. I think I never really had a rosy perception of marriage, though. Like, for me, yeah, I never had that kind of fairy tale that, you know, this is going to be an amazing experience throughout. I didn't.
Wow.
I didn't.
Oh, wow.
I didn't. And I think it's because of, so both my grandparents on both sides were divorced.
Okay.
Right? So again, subconsciously that probably set some type of perception in me anyway. And then I think also when I looked at couples, say my parents' age, although my mum and dad are married and they're still married, I didn't really see a lot of marriage. And then, you know, perhaps maybe looking at theirs, whilst I still wanted to get married and I knew that was just something I should do, I didn't really have an expectation that it was all going to be la-di-da-di-da. I knew that it was a lot of work and it was a lot of kind of commitment, if that makes sense, which I was prepared to do.
Okay.
I don't think I had the notion that I wouldn't stay in a marriage, if that makes sense. But I just knew it wasn't going to be kind of like a easy type of lifetime thing to kind of go through. You don't have to answer this question if you don't want to. That's fine. Leading up to the point where you've now decided to get married, was there anything prior to that marriage and that union, or the actual event of the day? Was there anything that you saw that made you think, should I be doing this?
Yes.
Is there a resounding yes? Or no?
100%.
Yeah.
100%.
I think
Listen, the red flag was not even a red flag. It was a whole red sheet that the plane was dragging across the sky.
Yeah.
I think sometimes you see certain things and you're like, I wonder if that's but it's probably because we're just stressing because of the wedding. We're just planning, we're doing a lot of stuff and you're just stressing about it. So yeah. I think yeah, you can, for me definitely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I saw things, but I think when you're sort of smitten, you overlook it. You let things slide.
Rose-coloured glasses.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Those rose-coloured glasses made you look like Stevie Wonder. You couldn't see not a damn thing.
Yeah. And a few.
And I could
people-
actually give you examples, like literally, in regards to going out and coming back in at 2:00 in the morning. I was just hanging with my brethrens. Interesting. Okay. Seen every day? Okay.
Every day.
Every day.
Oh, that's a lot. I was gonna say staying out till 2 in the morning.
Yeah.
No. It's not. It's not just a weekend. It's not. It's every day.
That's not. Yeah, no, that can't work.
Yeah, that's
I was warned. I was told. Are you sure?
No, my conversations were behind my back.
Oh, really?
So there were people having the conversation in regards to it. I don't think it's going to work. But those conversations never reached me until after I was married.
Oh, I see. Okay.
See, I'm still married, so for me, it's like you saw those things, but it was one of those things where it's like, I think, as Fitz said, like you love that person, you're smitten over that person, so it's like, you know what, like we're just both stressing out at this time, so this is where it's like that. So but I can see why people would think twice. Do you know what I mean? I can see why. But then love, and I think for some people it just might be the thing of where it's like, you've got this far.
Yeah.
Do you really want to?
Don't turn back.
Yeah.
Embarrassment.
Do you know what I mean?
Failure.
Yeah. Yeah.
You don't want it to fail at the first hurdle or the second
Yeah.
or the third, and all the ones after that. Even though you've been warned.
Yeah. I think for me, I think there were several conversations that I had and people had with me. And I think the main one, I'm not going to lie, I think it did kind of annoy me because I just didn't really like how it was done. Because I feel like you could have just said, sorry, babe. But a friend came round specifically to watch Why Did I Get Married with the both of us.
Huh?
Yeah.
Have you ever seen the movie?
Nah,
Okay, you need to watch it to understand
Yeah.
why.
I think I better not.
So there were things like that. I remember having like conversations with my aunt because we had just bought a house as well. So it was like, so do I now just throw all of this away? Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it was
You're already invested.
yeah, I'm already invested. You know, we're at that point we're already nearly 10 years into the relationship anyway. So it was just a natural kind of progression. But then I say all this, but I still don't necessarily regret getting married though, because I just feel like the lessons that were learned in that time have added to my growth personally.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? So, you know, they say like women tend to focus more on the wedding. Is that true? And so this is a question for the men. Did you have much thought and consideration for the marriage as a whole? Or was it more initially the wedding and the day for you guys?
The marriage for me. Yeah, the marriage for me.
Yeah.
I didn't think about a wedding until I proposed. Like,
Okay.
I've never had that in my head of like, okay, so my wedding's going to be this way. It's going to be that way. I never had that thought in my head. For some men, maybe, but for me, it was never that. I only thought about the wedding day when I proposed.
Okay.
If I could have got married with just my mum, her mum, and a couple people, I would have. The whole wedding, the whole concept of a wedding doesn't really
Appeal to you.
Not really. No. So.
Rach, how about you?
I realise that there are a lot of women, females, that literally say, my wedding.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I wasn't one of them.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, yeah.
Every step of the way I asked the question, do you like this?
Yeah.
How about this? What other colours should we do? And he was fully invested in the actual lead up and process of it. The wedding day for me, even just thinking about it, the lead up to it was stress because I didn't get married in this country. And the lead up to it was stressful. Most of my family came over. And when I think back, there were so many telltale signs that the marriage itself would potentially have worked, but the wedding and the issues that corrupt up around it should have just told me anyway. And then even the fact that he was 3 hours late to the wedding.
That's unheard of.
Listen to me.
For the man, like, unless you got stopped by the police on the way or there was a car accident or...
It was Grand Market Day in Jamaica and there was a whole load of traffic on the road.
Oh, okay, so it was traffic.
Yeah, loads of traffic.
Okay.
Obviously. Yeah. And literally, but even before then, I'd got to the hairdressers and my chief bridesmaid jumped in the chair before me.
Oh, yeah, that's wild.
And they thought she was the bride.
Wow.
That should have been the first indicator for me. I'd have like, woo, woo. Yeah, if I go into how many things went wrong on that day, there was no way, even down to when the priest said, I do. I cried, and trust me, I was not crying tears of joy. And my grandma hugged me. She said, I know, don't worry about it.
Wow. What were your feelings like during the nuptials? Were you kind of feeling like, yeah, wow, I've arrived? Like, what were you kind of?
Yeah, like proud moment. I've made the step. Do you know what I mean? Like, I'm here now. Like, going over to the other side. Do you know what I mean? I was proud of it. Like, I was happy about it. I was doing something that I wanted to do, not something that I was forced to do.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? And even with regards to the planning, what I will say is that I was involved in it, which was good. There were some difficult moments in terms of like agreeing on certain things, but I was involved in all the planning and everything, like that, which is good. But yeah, I was good with it, man. I was happy about it.
Okay. Fitz.
What's the question?
When you were literally at the altar exchanging your vows, what was your kind of feeling at that specific time?
Yeah, I felt okay. That's what I wanted to do. It was a bit overwhelming, to be honest.
Okay.
Just everybody there just looking. I just wanted to get it over and done with. No, I've made the decision. We're getting married. Obviously, I want to marry.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. I think maybe some of like the women in our family were just pressure. Like it just felt quite pressurized.
Okay. In what respect though?
Just all attention on me, just looking. You know, I'm gonna say I do, innit?
Oh, I see.
It just felt weird. I don't even know how to explain it. It was just like, you know, why are you all looking at me? I know what to do. It's gonna be done, and
The head kind of cocked like.
right, yeah. Not my mum, not my family. It felt like more of her family, just eagle-eyed on me, man.
Why do you think that was though?
I have no idea.
You always get that kind of thing though. I wonder if he's good enough.
Ah.
Nah, that wasn't there on my part. They knew.
Okay.
Okay. Cool. No, that's
Because I've always heard about, where there's some people where they think, oh yeah, it's not good enough to marry my child or
my niece or my
niece or my nephew.
Yeah.
Nah,
Where them come from, who is them, kind of thing.
Yeah, I'll be surprised if that's how they felt.
Yeah, agreed.
Okay.
It's good to hear.
Yeah. Okay, so So for those of us that are kind of, you know, no longer married, when were the telltale signs after the marriage where things looked like they were going wrong for you?
Me?
Yeah, it's open to anybody.
Financial. It felt like as soon as we got married, basically as soon as she got what she wanted, she took her foot off of the gas, and you know, the ambition had gone out the window, and some things were failing for her, and like it just felt like she went into this weird depression, which I didn't understand, because I'm the sort of person that if I'm down, I will work my way out of it and get back up. But it was just like, you know, watching somebody laying in bed till 1 o'clock with no plans for the day doesn't seem like depression. It just seems like laziness. But that's the way I see it. I understand everybody's not the same. But yeah, when I started seeing things like that, I logged off. I was losing interest. Yeah, so that's what happened with me.
I mean, obviously, like I don't want to obviously go into her kind of personal kind of circumstances or what have you, but
I don't mind.
okay.
Yeah, I really don't mind.
Okay. You know, so given that you can acknowledge that she was going through a kind of level of depression, and I guess some might say in sickness and in health.
Yeah. Not in laziness though. All these things were playing in my head, like, you know, you've got to stand by your wife and
yes,
help them work their way through it. But how can you help a lazy person?
Was it laziness though, or was it depression?
but yeah, because
Bit of both.
Okay.
because you know, because
If you're depressed because your business has failed, because you don't go to your place of business enough, because you're lazy.
okay, so
Is it
okay,
depression or
Cause,
is it lazy?
cause and effect. Okay.
okay, so are you saying that you've got married, and so are you saying that there was maybe something internally where an assumption was made that maybe perhaps she could just chill for a bit, and then maybe as a result the business failed? Or
No, I'm not saying that. I'm saying I was hoodwinked. That's what it felt like to me. Because I understand everybody puts their best foot forward when they're pursuing and when they're courting and when they're trying to get somebody on side. Yeah. But that's not what we planned. That's not what we agreed on.
right, okay,
So if you want context, I had 4 children outside of myself and her. She had 2 daughters that are not mine. And then we've had a daughter together. Okay? Money has to be made.
yes, agreed.
Right? And you can't then expect me to stop supporting my responsibilities outside of our marriage because you're not pulling your way.
Okay,
In that instance, no wife on this planet can come before my children. So when somebody says to you, you know, like, oh, your wife is the most important thing, and constantly saying to you, I'm your wife, like, I know that, I married you,
yeah.
but my children do come first.
Do you think that conversation? Did you guys have that conversation prior to the marriage?
100%.
Okay,
I'm a talker.
okay,
Yeah, 100%. And we agreed on certain things, and it didn't happen. So I felt betrayed.
okay. Yeah, betrayal. I think betrayal within a marriage is massive.
Yeah.
I think, you know, they say that, I think finances is probably one of the number one killers of a marriage, and I think probably second to that is going to be
Fidelity.
things, yeah, like or infidelity, and then, but like you say, like you felt betrayal from another sense. It wasn't infidelity that you suffered; it was a betrayal of what you kind of had mutually, you know, agreed. For you, Rachel, what were the main things that kind of came up initially that made you realise that maybe things weren't really working out?
The telephone calls that initially started. So there was a telephone call asking for my husband. When I asked who they were, don't worry, ask your husband. That was strike one. Now, if anybody knows me, they know my mouth is filthy. So, yeah, how that call ended wasn't how they thought it was going to end. And then one day I was standing at the door and I needed some change. His coat was hanging by the front door. Went in his pocket to look for some change and found a condom. That was the beginning of the end for me.
Yeah, I kind of have a similar story, but mine happened 16 days after our wedding. Yeah,
16 days.
16 days.
How did that make you feel?
I completely lost it, and I was ready to get the marriage annulled. I had one of his friends, you know, they always send the friends to come. One of his friends would come up and meet me. And when I was waking up in the city, would come and meet me with oxtail and rice.
The bribery.
Yeah, the bribery. The bribery. Everyone knows I love oxtail, right? You know, park up by the Thames. Dionne, listen, like, it's not that. Like, trust me. If it was that, I would know. Like, I'm his brethren. And I'll be honest, it was out of embarrassment that I couldn't. You know, when you think about the whole process leading up to a wedding. I had a very big wedding. We both come from very big families. You know, when I just thought about, you know, the bridal party, you know, all of that time, we did loads of rehearsals, we did all of this stuff, all the money that was spent, all the gifts we were just given, all of the kind of the community that we built around the day, right? You know, my granddad flew in from the States and all that kind of stuff. So it's like, so I'm just now going to know this marriage 16, 17 days after.
What do you do?
What do you do? But it was heartbreaking because I felt like, not that I felt like a failure, but I just felt like this has failed already. You know, like we hadn't even officially gone on our honeymoon at this stage. Like we did a quick trip to Milan, but our honeymoon. Sorry. Milan.
Yeah,
Milan. We had a quick trip to Milan, but our honeymoon wasn't scheduled until the October, and we got married in August. So we've not even made it to our honeymoon. And this is what you're doing already, right?
Can I ask you a question?
Yes.
Do you think your perception of what marriage was before entering it played a part in how the marriage kind of proceeded?
No, because that behaviour was already taking place before the marriage anyway.
Okay.
So when I entered into the marriage, you know, obviously I had an expectation because, you know, we've agreed that, or you've said that this is not something you're going to be doing anymore. And, you know.
So you knew that he was that kind of person?
Well, yeah, because we'd had situations on and off over the years kind of thing, right?
Okay.
So, you know, so again, in some ways, in hindsight, one would say you shouldn't have got married in the first place. And whilst I agree with that, at the same time, I still do feel like I'm not mad that I did, because there's so much that I've learned as a result of being in one, you know, learning how to be a wife, learning how to, you know, because if there's one thing that I can do, I can keep a relationship together, but it is usually at the detriment of myself.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So I almost feel like I could confidently pretty much be in a relationship with anybody and I can keep it going, but it would likely be at the detriment of myself, which is not healthy.
No.
So, yeah, so that I feel, so the betrayal and the infidelity still continued. But again, once you enter into a marriage, you have a commitment to try and keep that marriage going. And I kind of felt like I wasn't, whilst I was supported by my peers, I wasn't really supported by my family, if that makes sense. So again, perception is a big thing for a lot of people. So, you know, I might, for example, say to my mum, like, I remember I tried to actually move back home because I'd had enough. And she was so anti, I ended up going back. I ended up going back to my house because there was no support there. So it's like, it's all well and good my friends supporting me, but actually I needed my mum to actually be that support for me. Does that make sense? So I ended up kind of, you know, trotting along, but I think it got to about 2 or 3 years in, and something major happened, and that's when I mentally checked out, because I was like, I can't invest myself emotionally into this situation anymore. I can play the part, absolutely, and you will see us out, and it will all be fine and dandy, and like I said, we'll look the part, but internally, I've already checked out. So I'm still acting like a wife. I'm still doing what I'm supposed to be doing as a wife. I'm not committing infidelity anywhere, but I'm just getting on with my life. So I threw myself into work and, you know, all this kind of stuff just to keep myself busy. Insane. You know? So for me, that was kind of like that was the main issue. And I'm going to say the only issue, because for the most part, if that was an issue, I think we would have survived, if that makes sense, because, you know, we got on very well. I was treated well outside of the infidelity, but I was treated very well. I can't really, do you know what I mean? There wasn't other things, like I wasn't getting here. I wasn't getting, do you know what I mean? None of that stuff was happening for me. So, you know, I'd come home, I'd get my feet rubbed every day. He cooked, he cleaned, he did everything. Do you know what I mean? We were very much a 50-50 partnership in that kind of sense. But, you know, infidelity is a big deal, you know.
Trust as a whole.
Yeah.
I think trust as a whole is one of the biggest things, for me anyway. Being able to trust that person that you're with, that you said you want to spend the rest of your life with. And you can have people that will have their opinions that you're supposed to be with this person for the rest of your life, and that's how, and I understand that's what they come from and what they believe. But the same thing you said about, like, you had so many people fly over and come over to the wedding, and you feel like to get it annulled in 13 days. You're the only person that stays in this.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? It's you that goes to bed at night. Like, whoever's come in and flown over, they've had their rice and peas and chicken, and they've come and they've gone home. That's right. You know what I'm saying? They've gone home and everything's dandy. But you're the one that's basically suffering with that internally and doing what you're doing. Do you know what I mean? And I think for some people, it's a thing of where you stay certain places because you don't want to be a failure. You feel like you're a failure. You don't want to let people down. And more time, it's one of those things of where, like, how are you making sure that everybody else is okay but not yourself?
Yeah, that's a really good point. I think I was in my 20s when we got married. So, like, for example, now I know there is absolutely no way that I would even enter into a marriage again under anything remotely near those circumstances. And I think, you know, one thing that I've personally learned along the way is that I now know how to let go and say, okay, not doing that. No, okay, cool, no problem. No worries. All right, fine, no problem.
Boundaries.
Yeah, you know. So if we're going to turn the conversation around, because, you know, accountability is everything. Can you acknowledge some things that you may have done within your marriage that probably wasn't for the best, and what lessons have you learned from that?
Working, prioritizing work, when I say prioritizing work, it was a thing of where I wasn't prioritizing work because I just wanted to work. in my head, I was so focused on the future and so focused on, okay, I want to be able to provide, I want to be able to protect, I want to be able to do all of this. And I think what potentially, not even potentially, what happens is that I wasn't as clear with her in terms of the direction that we're going to, the future, where it's leading. So in my head, it's like, I've got the vision and I know exactly where I want to go and I know exactly what I want to do in order for us to be able to survive and provide and protect you and look after you. And sometimes I would prioritize work, and then I'd acknowledge it, be good for a couple months, but then slip back into it. Mm-hmm. And then it's that basically getting that routine. So what I've really learned is that I started getting to a stage where I understand, don't think about, try and be the person that she needs, not the person you think she wants.
Right.
Try to understand that. Mm-hmm. Do you know what I mean? So that's what I take on my part. On my part, definitely, I know at that the working side of things, but also maybe not being as clear with the objective of where we're heading and the direction as in the whole broad spectrum of it. Like, if that makes any sense. Yeah. So I think that's where it was, but it was never from a malicious place. It was never from a place of where it's like, I'm doing this to get away from you. Like, it was never like one of those things where I'm just working just for the sake of it. Like, I'm really like trying to make sure that we've got a great future.
You're building.
Yeah.
Why do you think that wasn't communicated?
Because I saw a quote that said the problem with communication is that the illusion that it's taken place.
Okay.
So in my head, because we've had a conversation that we're gonna be at one place for maybe 2 years, graft, and then we'll go and sort out our own place and stuff like that, right? That was like, okay, so you know the plan. Mm-hmm. But then there's a whole marriage on top of that. Do you know what I mean? Like, between that 2 years, there's a whole, like, plan this and that, and we're making the steps together. Do you know what I mean? And understanding, okay, so at this milestone, it's going to be here. At this milestone, we're going to get to there. Mm-hmm. So I think the communication, and I think we looked at things differently, because for me, I'm more kind of like the long-term goal. And maybe for her, it's like she needs to see things in steps.
Right.
And I think that's where the communication kind of got lost there.
Okay. Fitz?
What do I think? My accountability? I think I could have been more decisive. I worked out quite early on that we've made a mistake.
Okay.
And I did communicate it to her, but it wasn't comprehended. And I feel like I allowed myself to be talked into, let's do counselling, let's go to church, let's lean on other people, basically. But in my heart, I knew that I'd made a mistake. So I think I should have been more honest.
Okay.
With her earlier.
So how soon would you say you realised that you'd made a mistake by getting married?
Couple months.
Yeah.
Couple months. I did say, like, I think we should, like, just sort it ASAP, just get it nullified, because I don't see how we're gonna work.
Wow. Do you know what? It's so because I don't know how long you guys were together before you got married.
It wasn't long.
Okay.
So what happened is that we knew each other from school. So I think...
Oh, so you were friends?
Right. No, we wasn't.
No.
I didn't like her at school. Right,
okay.
I didn't like her after school. Basically, it's like a group of friends from school. Mm-hmm. Group of peers. People from the same year.
Yeah.
And we've entered like a WhatsApp group of reunions and things like that. Mm-hmm. And that's how we even got on each other's radar. So I knew her from school.
Right.
But she was never my sort of person, if you know what I mean. Not in a disrespectful way to her, but just like the circle she moved in.
Right. Okay.
I didn't really like that sort of circle.
Okay.
They thought they were like a bit cool. You know, those sort of people, like they think they're the in crowd. But
Oh,
I think
okay.
you're dickheads. Like, you're all just how can you explain it? You know what I mean? Like you people,
They think they're A-listers and they're the actual Z-list.
You're not. You just stick together and you're a bit weird.
Okay.
And I was very single-minded. Like I had a couple of good friends, and I'm happy with that small circle.
Right.
I don't need to have everybody around me and things like that. So yeah, so we courted for a short time, and I think that in my head I've known her long. But you don't know somebody unless you go on holiday with them, you argue with them, you live with them, you go through things. So that's where I think I messed up.
My mum's saying is always, come see me and come live with me is two different
things.
things.
Yeah.
Yeah, and there were, like when we were dating, I saw things that were like red sheets, whole red sheets. I saw things, and her mum said to me like, "Are you sure?"
Oh wow.
The day we got married, her mum said to my sister, "Are you sure your brother knows what he's doing?" Sort of thing. Her mum was warning me before we got married. Her mum.
Wow.
So, yeah.
Okay.
A mistake I wouldn't make again. I'll be a lot more decisive. Yeah. But then, another thing is that I was coming from a bad situation.
Okay.
With two of my children, their mum. So I think now that I was in a rush to replace and do the right thing and not do that again. I didn't want to just, all right, shack up with another girl, baby mother, kid.
Yeah.
I wanted marriage.
And you do it right.
We're doing it right.
Yeah.
In hindsight, it wasn't right. But that's at the time, I was a rebound. It was a rebound, let's be honest. But it didn't feel like it at the time. No, it was a rebound. It was.
Killing me, bro.
I'm being honest. I'm not even.
No. I know you are.
I was damaged, not just from my ex-partner. Like, if you can imagine, I lost my daddy in December 2013.
Yeah.
Yeah. And my head was all over the place. When my dad died, I was the only boy.
Yeah.
I've got 5 sisters. So I was trying to be strong for everybody.
Yeah.
And I didn't grieve. I didn't grieve for my dad until about 2019.
Really?
Definitely not.
I definitely resonate with that.
Do you understand? And a lot of things were going on. So like
Just
my
sitting
dad's
in the bottom
died.
belly, yeah.
The mother of 2 of my children was just not there at all. I'm not blaming it on her. I was womanizing. I was just doing a lot. Out drinking, in and out of her life. And when I was caring for my dad, when he's having chemotherapy, I can't have kids around because his immune system's so low. So they say you can't really.
Yeah.
And I had at the time 3 children. So I'm sacrificing my time to be my dad's carer. I'm sacrificing my time with my children.
Yeah.
So I was I was damaged, man. I was just all over the place.
So you can acknowledge then that because of that kind of very traumatic 6 years where you didn't have the opportunity to grieve, plays a part in you rushing into.
Definitely.
So did I mean, obviously I don't know, you can't really speak on behalf of her, but did she feel like she'd rushed into it also, or?
Man, you'd have to ask her. I mean, her view on it. I think she's just a bit of an oddball when it comes to that. She doesn't. Time is like just a state of mind to her. I think she just doesn't see time as that important. She thinks that you can just crack on, and make her life in a few months.
Okay.
If you know what I mean, and you can't. It works sometimes. Obviously, there's always exception to the rule, but more time you got to know that person.
Yeah.
So yeah, we rushed it, man.
Okay. Rach?
I think mine very much like Kerry's. I prioritised work. My career was flourishing at the time. Looking at the journey of what I thought we were going on, his plans were totally different. And that became evident with the behaviours. So I think for me, I think being the breadwinner and not acknowledging the impact of that within the marriage caused an issue. And it wasn't that I buoyed him off or made him feel like he was a house husband, but that's what you technically were at the time.
Right.
And literally,
Yeah, that's wild.
literally, I carried the house. And then when you got a job, it was, I don't like this. And it was constant moaning. And I'm like, well, what else are you going to do? Because you're not bringing in no... And it was just my response at the time.
Yeah.
I think I was frustrated. Like, how can you turn around and tell me about this job is too hard and I don't like it and I'm leaving and you left the job? And again, it's back on me. So it's very much like Fitz, is that betrayal. Like, so what then? I must carry
the load.
Yeah, so I think it was my approach to it. And when the lesson learnt from it is to the level of consideration, because I'm in a space, because I've been able to do certain things, doesn't mean that everybody has the opportunity to do that or has the capacity to do that. And I need to be kind to myself and to them and not continue in something that I know that we're not on the same journey. Because as much as 6 + 3 makes 9, so does 5 + 4. But he was adding 6 + 12 and I was still on a 5 + 4 thing. So
Right. Okay. I think for me, accountability, I think that if I did have opportunities to perhaps try and salvage it, I didn't. But for me, at the same time, it was just like, I can't keep saying the same things again and again. Because at that point, I was a bit like, well, what more can I do? Yeah. So like I said, for me, mentally, I checked out. So although we went on to have a child and stuff like that, and then that was the absolute ending as soon as I pretty much fell pregnant, because I'd mentally checked out, I just didn't really care that much, if that makes sense. So, I mean, I don't know from his opinion, but for me, I kind of feel like from 2012 onwards up to 2016, when we officially kind of, separated, that 4-year period, like I said, you'll see us and we'll look fine, but my head wasn't in it. And like I said, I would do everything that I was supposed to do, but for me, it was just a case of, when can I get out?
Can I ask a question?
Yeah.
When you mentally checked out, if you knew you mentally checked out, why was it you didn't just kind of just say, you know what, I'm mentally out? Why did you keep going?
Because, do you know what's interesting? My circumstances now are completely different. So back then, I was working in the city, had a very great salary. I was dining out. I was outside a lot when I was working in the city. But it's so weird because in hindsight, when I look back, I convinced myself I couldn't afford it. Right. I literally convinced myself that I couldn't afford it. There was stuff the house that needed doing before we could sell it. This, that, the third. How long would it take for us to sell the house? Blah, 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 blah. So in my head, I actually felt trapped.
do you feel that it was an unconscious kind of... do you think that they were unconscious behaviours, those excuses, hoping that he would change?
No, because at that point I knew that he wouldn't. But what I also know is that probably I did have unconscious conditioning to keep things going because that is what I had seen. So I don't know, if I didn't have my daughter, I could possibly still be there. I'm going to be honest. There's a possibility that yeah, honestly. Because the thing is, I think, with having her, a light bulb went off and I was like, okay, something's got to change now. And that's when the therapy started. And that's when, you know, I had to do a lot of self-discovery to really ask myself, why are you still, look at all the things that have been done up to this point, the violations after violations. Why are you still here? And it took for me to have therapy to really understand, because a lot of the time when we're displaying certain behaviours, we don't know where it's rooted from. Do you understand what I mean? So it was in that process that's where I kind of realised, well, this is where this is coming from, and that's enough for me now, thanks. You know? So I'm going to ask all of you, what are the main lessons that you've learned, and what advice would you give to anyone considering marriage?
I can go first.
Yes.
Don't rush. Have life experience with that person first, and be transparent about finances on both sides.
Okay. Just to kind of, with the transparency of finances, what exactly do you mean?
Do you owe 4 people $3,000 each? Are you in debt? Like, is this person in debt? What's their credit like? You need to be transparent about these things, because if you find out like after that, wow, hang on, this person's like in trouble financially, it impacts you.
Yeah.
It impacts you. You know, if you got somebody saying that, oh, I owe this person £4,000, can you lend me lend? How are you gonna lend your wife £500? You mean give? So I'm paying for your debts that came before me when you was with somebody else. Where are we going with this? That doesn't make any sort of sense. I get you're my wife, but you're in debt. I can't pay your debt, so I got my own. It'd be different if the debt was accrued under me. Like
we were together.
Yeah, but you got debt from. Come on, you got to be transparent about finances at the end of the day, because to get a mortgage, you got to have credit, right?
Yeah.
If you're gonna get a mortgage together, you need to know what the other person's dealing with, right?
Yeah.
So that's just my advice: just be transparent about finances. What are you pulling in? What's going out? That's another thing. What money is being paid up?
Yeah.
It's all good earning $5,000 a month, but if you're giving out 4.5,
Yeah.
what have you got to put
Yeah.
in the pot?
Yeah.
Is there a pot?
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's my advice.
Okay. So transparency, particularly around finances, and not rushing.
Yeah, don't rush.
Don't rush.
Don't rush.
Okay. Kerry?
And listen to their mum. Listen to. If the mum or the dad is giving you signs to, are you sure about my own daughter, or are you sure about my son? I mean, listen to it.
Yeah.
If a mum says to you like, are you sure about my son, sort of thing, you listen to her.
Especially if they're concerned and
She
confused.
knows.
Yeah.
The mum knew she ain't shit. The mum knows she ain't shit. And the mum's telling me, basically telling me like, if you're sure. That's what she said to me. Like, she said, boy, if you're sure. I've got, the mum's telling me like, boy, if you're sure, go choose, sort of thing. I should have listened to that. Why didn't I listen to it? I will never know.
That's fair.
So if the mum tells you, or if the dad, or if somebody close to the person that you supposedly love, they basically tell you that the other person isn't shit, listen to them. It's probably true. They've known them a bit longer than you.
Just a bit.
Yeah.
So the question again?
What's up? Shit, sorry. I was turning it a bit blue there. But I'm just being honest. That's my experience.
No. It's you know, obviously I'm appreciating honesty. It's not that. It's just obviously.
It's the way it's framed.
Yeah.
It's just the way it just came out.
Yeah, it's just.
And do you know what it was? I was not ready for that.
Yeah. That's it.
I was so not ready for
Yeah,
that, and
yeah.
it just sent me sideways.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
And obviously, I'm trying to have my professional face on, and I'm struggling.
And I'm trying not to look at him, and then I'm looking at you. It just makes it worse.
I'm not even saying
Sorry.
it for comedic effect.
No, I know.
No, we know.
Yeah, that's the
That's the
thing.
thing,
Serious,
because you're so deadly serious, and it's just so flippant with it, though. That's what makes it quite difficult to even just take it in.
Yeah. Oh my God.
I'm not saying it for, honestly, I'm not saying it to be controversial or anything
No,
like that.
But it's good advice.
But I'm
Yeah.
just being honest with you.
It's definitely
Yeah.
good advice because there are some parents that will send you down the river with their child, knowing their child ain't shit.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Not just the mum.
The mum, the sister, the granny, the dog,
knew.
everybody.
They were telling me. And my own people weren't. My own people weren't saying nothing to me. And then after the fact, they're saying
we
to me
knew.
that,
We
oh
knew.
boy, I was thinking she's a bit this. I'm like, why didn't you tell me that at the time?
But nobody wants to tell.
Nobody wants to be the bearer of the bad
Yeah,
news.
no one wants to do that.
I'll be honest. Sorry.
No, go on.
I will.
Yeah.
No, but I'm saying as a man though. No, but as a man, okay, but as a man, are you gonna tell your male friend
As my brethren, I can't not tell him that.
Because then you're not a friend.
about his woman
Like,
I'm not going to say
that he's engaged to?
no, I'm not gonna say from a point of where, brother, she's a mad one. Like, it would be more of like, bro,
Are you sure?
Yeah, you sure you thought about this, and I'm coming from an angle, not necessarily.
Are
to
you
get out.
100%?
Yeah, just maybe 100% sure you thought about everything and everything you've assessed everything. You're definitely sure this is the
Two of
person
you are
you spend your
aligned.
life. You get me? That's
Yeah.
what I'd say. I wouldn't necessarily say, brother, yo,
she ain't shit.
Yeah,
I wouldn't say that.
But I've got to let my brethren know that, you know what?
She ain't shit. Just in another way. In another way.
Just yeah, and even for my best female friends, I'd say the same thing. Like, you sure? Like you sure? Yeah. Like,
Yeah.
Like I'd do the same thing.
Okay. All right.
If I
Fair.
love you and I care about you, then if I don't say anything, for me to turn around afterwards and say, you know, I was thinking that I wouldn't be a friend,
Yeah.
in my opinion.
Okay. Fair enough. Hold that for. Are the cameras okay? Yeah. How are they on now? Oh, okay, cool. All right, fine, perfect. Okay. Okay, so yeah, what advice would you give? And what's the main lesson you've learned, and what advice would you give?
I think the advice that I'd give is don't marry someone based on what that person can do for you. Marry that person based on what you're willing to do for them.
Okay.
And the reason why I say that is because in certain situations you will find that somebody else can come along and probably do more than that person can.
Okay.
And for some people, that could be easy for them to detract, or their eyes might stray elsewhere and stuff like that because of they found somebody that does more for them than that person does.
Okay.
But for me, if you're doing it based on the person that you want to do more for, you will go away from any distractions or anything like that in terms of that side of things, in my opinion. But also as well, I'd say understand that this is not about one day. This is a lifetime. And if it does come to that stage where, you know what, it's not working out and you are unhappy and your mental well-being is being affected, please do not allow anybody around you to make you feel like you need to be in something for the rest of your life because of they're telling you that, because that pressure that you're dealing with, it's only you that deals with that.
Yeah.
So my advice would just to be mindful of it's for the whole lifetime. But if it doesn't work out, you are most definitely not a failure. It's never a loss, it's always a lesson.
Yeah.
You'll always learn and don't ever feel like you failed.
Yep. Love that. Rach?
I agree with Fitz to a point in relation to get to know the person. Communicate, but make sure they comprehend fully what your idea of that journey is and that they marry up, that they align. Because if they're misaligned and the two of you are not on the same journey, you are wasting your time. In relation to understanding each other, love languages mean a lot. So I need to know what it is that pleases you rather than me trying to please you based upon on what I like.
Yeah.
That's key.
Yeah.
Also, just be kind to both yourself and them. And if there is any doubts, have that discussion before you go to that altar. If there's a doubt, a niggle, even a little red flag, talk that out. Because you might just find out, actually, I don't even like you.
Mm.
Yeah. So don't skip over them, and don't think, maybe it's just a bad day. Have that discussion, because we will rationalize things out because of our own needs sometime.
Yes.
That need to be wanted, that need to be right, that need to do things the right way, that needs to do things that make a family whole, when actually you're whole yourself, but that person is there to complement you.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's just my advice.
And that love language thing, definitely.
Yeah.
Yes, like love
I mean,
languages.
that was a good point.
Yeah, because that's something I'll hold my hand up and be accountable. Go back to the accountability. Is that I want the best at it. I'm not the best at it.
Mm-hmm.
Do you know what I mean? In terms of the love language, and I've tried to learn to be better. I've tried to be better at it, but it's one of those ones where it's understanding that just because I show love in a different way doesn't mean that's how the person
They
wants to be
receive
loved.
it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So yeah, I hold my hands up and say that's one of the accountabilities that I could have been better.
Do you know, I think the sad thing for me is that I didn't even know what love languages were until I didn't know what they were in my marriage at all. But I feel like there's a lot more information out now that, you know, I can understand and comprehend more, and probably, you know, for example, you know, my love languages are, I guess my top two would be acts of service and physical touch. Those are like my top two. Now, I wouldn't know how to explain that in my 20s because I didn't know what it was. Does that make sense?
But I think we understood what they were, but not the title of it.
The title, yeah.
Because we categorically know that your partner likes something.
Yeah.
Do you get what I mean? Because they now coined it a love language, we are now more au fait with it. But we always know that our partners like particular things.
Yeah.
Do you get what I mean? And I think it's that work that we don't put in.
Yeah. Yeah.
Do you get what I mean?
Yeah.
100%.
Because you categorically know if your man likes his back rubbed, or before he goes to sleep, he likes his hair played with. Do you get what I mean? Or he likes you to scratch it. Like, there are things.
Yeah.
And they actually translate into love languages. And it's just because they've collected that information that they can kind of categorize them and formalize them. But we've always known. Everybody knows. So when a person decides that, actually, they're just about pleasing themselves, you know, you're in the wrong place.
Yeah.
I think we need a part 2 because me and Fitz are laughing. I think
Same thing still. Yeah.
Okay, what are you
Too
laughing at?
dirty.
No. It's nothing there.
Oh, so what is it then?
I think we need a
Part 2. Yeah, part 2.
You see, man, that this for
But-
me, what I will say is what this actually shows me as well is that there is still a language that men speak that the two of you understood, and me and Dee was like,
What are you talking about?
what are you talking about? And that for me is something that I'm still learning. That's
Yeah.
still figuring out point. Do you get what I
But
mean?
that's the same with women. Though.
Yeah.
We tried to interpret. I just want to know what you meant.
In it, can you just say?
No.
What I was going to say is that adding on to that about accountability,
Yeah.
one thing I do know about myself is that I'm cold.
Cut down, shut down.
Okay.
I'm cold. And admittedly, I was cold.
Right, okay. What, throughout or just when it
No.
got bad?
Once it got bad, I checked out. I'm done. I've spoken so many times. I'm not going to keep talking. I'm not going to argue with you. I'm just going to ignore you.
And the thing is,
And you're going to ignore me.
and you knew that would bun her, so that's why you did it.
Do you know what? There was a few more layers to it than that.
Okay.
Yeah, there was a bit more to it than that.
Okay.
But all I will say is that we were basically just ignoring each other in the house
Okay.
with children in it.
Yeah, that's
It's not healthy.
It's
and
not
that's when
healthy.
I said, like, look, you know what? I'm going to leave on this date. Because
It's not healthy.
girls are not happy.
Yeah.
You're not happy. I'm not happy. So I'm going to cut. And, yeah. But, that was definitely, that's a thing that comes from my childhood. comes from my childhood. It comes from my upbringing. My mum's cold. She taught me and my sisters to be cold.
Right.
So
Generational.
yeah, we got no issue. Like, I can cut off my own mum. If I will not speak to my mum for a year.
Okay.
And I don't feel particularly bad about it. But I know it's wrong.
Yeah.
But I can do it. I can cut off anybody. So if you're acting up, in my mind, I'm not saying that I'm right, but if you're acting up, right, it's like, okay, cool. Done.
Well, I still survived after all these years. So.
Even after not sending me certain things.
The things, yeah.
So yeah, that would be my main acknowledgement. Like, I can admit, yeah, that's not easy to deal with.
Yeah.
You know, and there was talk of like, oh, let's go to therapy and let's go to church.
You're done though.
And I'm like, for what? I'm watching Arsenal that night.
I mean, so you don't think therapy could have worked?
No, definitely not. Therapy for me can work to work on my crap. Yeah, but therapy for us, we're done. I can't see a therapist justifying what you're doing and justifying what I'm doing. I can't see a therapist alive that can make this right. It don't work.
Okay.
That's the end.
Okay.
We don't need therapy. We need a divorce.
Right. Okay, so before we wrap up, who's open to marriage again?
Yes.
Yay.
Yay.
100%. Yeah, I think marriage is beautiful.
Yeah, I think when it's done right.
Correctly,
Yes.
man, it's beautiful. You can't beat it.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Become a force and a powerhouse, man.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think when you're aligned and you're both ready to build, and it's a beautiful thing. Like, and as much as mine didn't work out, I still have a huge respect for marriage. It's still something, I'm going to have for myself in the future. So yeah, for me, it's a most definite. So yeah. I want to thank you guys, honestly, for laying yourselves bare today, because I do feel like this is a very important topic, especially as, there's a lot of younger people getting into marriage and not really taking the consideration of, actually what it entails. So I'm hoping that this episode can reach a lot of them, and they can kind of see some of the things that we've spoken about and experienced. And perhaps maybe just hold off a bit until they're actually, kind of ready. I think for me, my advice, regarding marriage would just be, marriage is a daily task that you have to kind of, work on. I would say, always check in with your partner, like the common kind of, oh, how's your day? It's just something that you kind of say off the cuff, isn't it? Actually, maybe be a little bit more invested about how their day was, But most importantly, if you genuinely in your heart feel like you've done all that you can do, it's actually okay to walk away. And don't let anyone guilt trip you. I got guilt tripped a lot with religion. God's going to punish you if you walk. I got a lot of that.
From who? No, like from people at church, from family, friends.
No, from family.
Ah, okay.
I got guilt tripped with that a lot.
I got guilt tripped.
Did you?
From friends.
Really?
Yeah, my brethren that are married were saying to me like, no, Fitz, you can't just walk away so soon. You can't. I'm like, listen, I can. And I am.
Maybe I should have had a bit more of your spirit.
It's a balance, isn't it? It's a balance.
Yeah, and at the end of the day, like, there were lessons I had to learn myself, so it is what it is. But yes, thank you guys again for laying yourselves bare. These guys mentioned a part 2, so maybe we might get that, in the bag at some point when they're available.
Take that.
Yeah, but yes, thank you for tuning in. Look after yourselves. I love you, and it's a wrap.